Fiorenzato Allground Sense is the name of this grinder with grind-by-weight technology, meaning it has a built-in scale that stops exactly when the right amount of coffee has been ground. Really handy for always grinding the same and the correct quantity of coffee. We've tested the grinder extensively and filmed a long video about it, but today I've put together a short version again so you can quickly get the key facts about the Fiorenzato Allground Sense. Let's keep it brief. Personally, I am a huge grind-by-weight fan because the grinder just gives me exactly the grind size or the amount that I really do need. And then I only have to concentrate on the grind size, and that really is a great feature. And I think it's a technology that makes so much sense for experienced home baristas as well as for newcomers and beginners alike. So I was really happy when I saw that yes, there's also a Fiorenzato Allground Sense. And we've tested it extensively. I think we're at over 90 grinders by now that we've looked at with particle distribution measurement with retention or dead space measurement, meaning coffee ground residue and so on. And we did the same with the Fiorenzato. The grinder costs around 1,100 euros, 990 francs, so right around that 1,000 mark. That is quite a lot of money for a grinder, so the expectations are naturally very high for this one as well. And the grinder really delivers on many fronts. It's built to a high standard, it has excellent particle distribution. It is highly accurate when it comes to the grinder's output. You get the 18 grams out if we put 18 grams into it. And that's really great. We can totally rely on it. And the espresso tastes good too. Whether you're more into really dark roasts or prefer lighter roasts, you can make great coffee with the Fiorenzato Allground Sense. I can personally vouch for that. However, there are also some real problems. And the first one is retention. Retention simply means the amount of residual space that exists within the grinding chamber, around the chamber or the grinding burrs, as well as inside of the chute. Right there, in some grinders, every single grinder keeps a little bit, but some grinders leave more ground coffee behind than other ones actually do. And here it is 6.6 grams just sitting in a loose retention. In other words, you are grinding your coffee, you grind 18 grams. And then 6.6 grams from the grind stay behind here. You've got 18 grams in the portafilter, but 6.6 grams more were just ground and they're sitting around here in the grinding chamber. And then there's another 0.5 grams of so-called fixed permanent retention. They even stick there permanently. But the real problem is actually those 6.6 grams that we have measured right here. Let's say it's 6. Even 6 grams is a lot. Because what does that mean? When you make your next espresso, you'll have those 6 grams in your 18 gram dose. So you didn't actually grind 18 grams fresh, but 12. That means 2/3 of the coffee was just ground. A whole third of a double espresso is now from the last grind. And if you just made a single espresso with 9 grams, then over 6 grams of that is coffee that's been sitting in the grinder and is also aging. And it never tastes as good as freshly ground. Sure, if you say you're making the next espresso in 15 minutes, then it doesn't matter. It only matters if you say, I'll make a coffee in the morning, an espresso in the afternoon, and then another one the next morning. Then the ground coffee reacts much faster with oxygen than a whole bean would. The coffee ages, CO2 escapes, oils begin to change as well, and we notice that in the taste. And that's a very, very high value compared to other grind-by-weight grinders in this price range. Even compared to other grind-by-weight grinders below this price range, that's a high value. And for me, that's quite problematic. And then, unfortunately, there is also a second major problem area, and that is the grind size setting right up here. It feels quite good haptically. I mean, it is actually fun to move it and go to the next level. And I have nothing against stepped grind settings if the steps are finely adjustable. But here, every single step means a much larger adjustment or change in the grind size than I would personally ever want. To be more specific here, if you change by just one single step here, you can very easily end up with a 4-second difference in your target espresso output result. To give you an example, we have an extraction of 27 seconds, but we'd really like to have 25. So we adjusted one notch coarser. What happens is we do not actually hit the 25, but we will quite likely overshoot and end up with an extraction of 23 seconds, maybe even 22 seconds. This means we can't make such small steps. adjusting finer or coarser. And that makes it very, very hard with the grinder to hit really precise recipe targets or to hit them again if you've maybe taken some notes. Today the coffee tasted great, 27 seconds extraction time, such and such brew ratio, blah, blah, blah. You've noted it down, want to do it again the next day. Due to external factors, the humidity in the room has changed and you can't get there anymore with the same grind setting. But if you are only off by 2 or 3 seconds and now try and finally readjust it, then you won't even hit the recipe, but keep jumping over it. And that's obviously really frustrating when you're trying to get everything precisely out of your coffee. That is exactly the reason why we also did not rate the espresso potential of the grinder as being quite so high. Yes, it is indeed possible to make a very good espresso with it, but it is difficult to do it consistently or to find your way back to specific results again. And that's purely due to the grind setting, not because of the particle distribution. Because the particle distribution, it's not just good, it's actually very good. And it's also good if we were at one level of particle distribution, then switch to ristretto, then go to cafe crema, and then return to the original recipe. Then the particle distribution is the same again. The main problem is simply that we can't finally adjust the grinder around this particle distribution target. That was a bit of nerd talk. We'll go into more detail in our in-depth videos. If you want to learn more about the grinder, what it's good at and what it's not, then check it out. There, we'll discuss the speed in more detail, for example. Briefly, that is also good. The grinder is fast, delivering 18 grams of ground coffee in a short time, just 8 seconds. Great result. Same for the temperature and the same for the noise level. The grinder performs really well there too and is a solid performer, so it's an interesting grinder, the Fiorenzato Allground Sense. But with, I would say, 2 somewhat larger problem areas that have significant consequences for the fun and the joy of working with the grinder itself. Thanks. For more information, check out the blog post in English.